This is going to be a demonstration of the need to change the timestamp of the memory dump file in order to get the myLatex format package to work correctly on a particular day. The basic issue is that unless the timestamp of the memory dump file that's created the format file matches the actual date at which you're trying to compile the LaTeX document, in fact, it will not work successfully. So this is to demonstrate what the actual date and time is when I start this video. We can see that it is 10:22 a.m. Wednesday, March the 17th, 2021, in the Eastern Time Zone of North America. All right. So I'm going to make use of a set of files that are contained in a folder on my desktop called dump MWE for minimum worked example. What's important to know before I actually start this example is that I have done a local install of the most recent version of mylatexformat. So on my particular machine, that particular install is to a subdirectory in a folder called text, and contained within text is mylatexformat, and all of the library files and the binaries associated with mylatexformat are installed within this set of subfolders on my desktop. So during the mylatexformat installation, those of you who are mylatexformat users will remember that you can choose either a mylatexformat install that's available for every user on a computer, or if you choose, you can also make it available only to a single user. And for a variety of reasons, primarily the ease with which you can make backups and restore backups in case you have problems, I made my install local for myself only. Okay, so if we look at the actual minimum worked examples, this is the actual text file that I use. I use the WinEd editor, and we'll just have a quick look here at the various files. Okay, so the document itself is trivial. The little bit of lorem, some equations, some text, etc., etc. And the key is to use the myLatex format package. The first line is essentially the first comment, the ampersand, and then the name and location of the format file that you've created. Okay, now the actual format is straightforward. I specify the document class. I set up some page geometry because this is what I typically do. And to demonstrate one of the main advantages and motivations for using myLatex format, at least in my operational way of working, is to load packages which are fairly large, which typically take a long time to pull into the document, so that if you're recompiling with any frequency, this becomes almost the rate limiting step. And so here's an example of a couple of them, PGF plots and ticks. So there's the preamble. And again, the basic structure is I have my main document, test_format, and then I have a subfolder preamble where that particular preamble that I just showed you is contained. And in the document itself, we can simply see that you have to point at it. So there's the explicit path to the preamble folder nested within the work folder. Okay, now the sort of key step is you have to actually build the memory dump, the format file, the .fmt file, and following the documentation for myLatex format, there's a set of commands that you can run from the command line. Bringing up a command window and having to type all that in with any frequency gets kind of boring. So I simply created a little batch file that I call build template.bat. If we simply have a quick look at it, you can see that the commands are essentially the equivalent to the ones that are shown in the myLatex format documentation. I simply had to escape a few things and do a few fiddly things to make it work under a Windows batch file. Creating batch files in Windows with weird characters can sometimes be a pain. I very much miss doing things in a bash shell rather on my Linux boxes, where I actually can do this fairly easily. But this is essentially fine, and it's been tested out and it works. So the very first step to get this to work is you simply have to run this. And so when you run it, It pulls in all the various packages, and then it creates the format file here and a log file. All right, so again, if we look at the actual documentation, there's the document class, the various packages that are getting used, and then the command at the end of the file, end of dump, is what mylatexformat is actually looking for. And so what that does, it basically compiles it as a memory dump file, format file. There it is. I've called it MWE format.fmtp or FMT rather. And so now when I go over to my main document, that's what it's going to pull in. And we should have no difficulty whatsoever getting this to compile. And you can see it compiles almost instantly, and it creates a correct DVI file or whatever your output format of choice is. Okay, so this is it on Wednesday, March the 17th, and we can see that it works. And if we look at the timestamps, we can see that they are all 3/17/21 at the time in Eastern time zone that I'm actually doing this compilation. All right, so what I'm going to do then is stop this video here, and I'm going to make a second part of this video on Thursday, March the 18th to demonstrate that in fact, if you don't change the timestamp, then you're no longer able to read in the format memory dump file that you created on Wednesday. All right, so this is the end of part 1 of this video. All right, so this is the second video trying to demonstrate the issue having to do with mylatexformat and the timestamp on the format file that gets generated, the memory dump file. Today, to confirm, is March 18th, so the day after the first part of this video. It's 9:32 Eastern Standard Time in North America. And here we are looking at the actual files again. Nothing's particularly changed. I go into the preamble folder, and we can see, again, confirming that the timestamp on MWE format.fmt is yesterday, 3/17/2021. Okay, so if I actually try to compile the document, again, the first line in the document is the commented call to the format file itself. If I actually try to do this, so this is identical to the first part of the video, go ahead and try to compile that, I get an immediate error. And the error is not particularly informative, but if we go ahead and look at the log file that gets generated, you see that it can't find or MWE.format, which of course is puzzling because there it is. And so it found it fine yesterday when it was done for the first time, and for some reason it's not able to find it today. And I played around with this a fair bit, and then it occurred to me that if I just simply rebuild the file on a given day, it works. And so that was the clue. The clue is not that it's been rebuilt, but that it was rebuilt on the day that I'm using it. And I'm not sure if it's actually a calendar date that's the issue or not, but I'm fairly positive that it has to do with the fact that the format file was created yesterday, and I'm trying to use it today, and it doesn't work. So it's not a permanent file in some respects. You can confirm this hypothesis. We can either just rebuild the file, but to demonstrate that it's just the timestamp, I'm going to use essentially what the equivalent is of the touch command in Linux. And so there's our files. And what I want to do is go into my preamble folder. I do that. And what I want to do is touch the mwe.format.fmt file to basically change the timestamp to today. I don't do anything else at all. Bit length, nothing else changes for the file itself. And so I can do that with copy /b, the name of the file that I want to touch. So it's simply mwe.format.fmt, and then the sort of obscure plus comma, and that basically is the equivalent of the Linux touch command under Windows. So I go ahead and I do that. And you simply see that the file is essentially copied over on itself, and it simply uses the timestamp. If I go ahead and look, and we can see that the timestamp for that one file has been updated to the current date and the current time. Okay, so that's all I've done. Absolutely no changes at all to mwe.format other than changing the timestamp. try to compile, and presto changeo, works fine. So that's the issue. I guess the question is whether or not there is some way to either make the format file permanently available to MikTeX, or if that's a feature of some sort, or just an artifact, some sort of mylatexformat as a package, or if this is somehow related to the fact that I've installed MikTeX into its own subdirectory for me as the single user of this particular machine. All right, so thanks very much. Anyone who has some ideas or comments, please post them to the Stack posting for this particular problem, and I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.